guitar people, it's the same guitar. You've already seen it before. Actually, no, it's not. What you have seen before is you have seen another video of mine for the Guitar of the Week 2007, the fourth one. That's the Explorer Pro. This is actually the same model, but I bought these over a year apart. And the story behind this is that it was such a fantastic guitar. There's nothing wrong with the other one at all. The pickups were the standard heavy metal pickups, the ceramic high output 496R 500T set. And after having played the Week 43 guitar, which is the full-size Explorer with the 57 Classic pickups in it, I was so blown away by how it sounded that I started thinking a lot back and forth about, man, those pickups would sound great in the Explorer Pro, which is smaller, lighter, it's also very easy to play. And I started thinking about this a lot, right? And it wasn't an insignificant expense, I'll call it, because at the time, you know, one of these was running about $1,100-$1,200 for a set of those pickups. To buy both of them, you know, I was looking at about $300 or so. It wasn't really a, you know, I'm just going to sneeze and have the money to do that. So I thought about it for a while, quite a long while actually. And there was a store around here back then that's out of business now. But they had a lot of, you know, they traded, I'll say largely in used equipment. They had a bunch of new stuff that was typically lower end. You know, Syracuse, the area that I'm in, was not the home market for them, so to speak. So the store out in this area didn't get the best of their inventory. And typically on the wall, if you saw a new guitar, it was going to be a lower end Ibanez, or it was going to be a Squire or something like that. They did have, however, behind the counter, way up high, and it was in an old building. So we're talking, you know, 15 feet off of the floor or so. They had a handful of Gibson USA guitars. You know, they were at that time, you know, an authorized seller. So, you know, it's not like they were not covered under warranty or anything like that. But you didn't really see that very much. And I kept, you know, going in there for like random odds and ends. They were a convenient nearby store for me to go to if I suddenly needed a set of strings, or I needed you know, one of the set screws for a Floyd Rose or something. They might have that part. It was worth driving out there to check before making a much longer drive out somewhere else to a bigger store. So what I saw there is I saw basically this guitar in its stock form hanging up behind the counter, and I kept thinking to myself, well, I don't need another one of those, right? Their prices weren't horrible. They weren't necessarily better than anyone else's, but the point is I already had one of these, and you know, I just kind of kept passing by and ignoring it. Well, it sat up there for over a year, you know, and then I started thinking about putting new pickups in it. Well, the thing is, on a limited run guitar at the time, I thought, well, do I really want to wreck the original stock guitar that I have that's got all the, you know, the paperwork and all that stuff, you know, not realizing back then, you know, limited run for them really isn't really a limited run. I mean, it technically is, but the collectability just isn't there. So what happened is I kept that original Explorer Pro off to the side, and I walked in there with an amplifier and another Gibson guitar, which was a faded series guitar, and I traded those in. I paid like maybe, you know, $100 towards this, and I walked out of the store with this. I rescued this from, you know, a slow, agonizing death above the counter, where nobody really had any interest in it, right? Because when you think about, okay, who wants a pointy guitar? It's typically going to be younger kids. Younger kids usually don't want a pointy guitar, I'm sorry, when they do want a pointy guitar, they usually don't want it in an old fogey kind of color like this. So this model, although it sold, it didn't sell awesome, and it's not super popular. It tends to be popular with some of my older friends who think it's really a novel design. For me, you know, this is one of the best balanced body shapes of guitars that they build, and I'm a huge fan of this color. So I got it, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell in this picture, but it's got a pretty sick amount of figuring to the maple top. And that was very obvious even from floor level. When this guitar was hanging 15 feet up above the counter, I could see it pretty clearly. So I bought this when I got it home, and I had my drummer at the time, who was working as an auto electronics technician, help me solder the pickups, because I'm, giving me a soldering iron is kind of like handing a loaded revolver to a chimpanzee. So he soldered the pickups in for me once I purchased them, and I loved gigging with this guitar from that point afterwards. The only downside this has is they're these vintage style pickups, so they do tend to pick up a lot of hum from things like fluorescent lights. So some of the venues that we went to, if they had fluorescent lighting backstage, because they were primarily a bar and not a stage, then I would have trouble during sound check and things like that with these picking up a lot of hum. But they've got a lot of punch, clarity. They can get very percussive sounding, and by this point I had learned the lesson that if you want heavier, you don't turn everything up to 10. You actually start backing certain things off to drop out certain parts of your sound to make the ones that you want to hear stand out and have more impact. So this is a guitar that I've played with for many years. It's still one of my favorites. It's got a very thin, comfortable neck. The neck is bound, which makes it very comfortable to get your fingers around. You're not getting stabbed by sharp fret ends or anything like that in the winter months when the fretboard dries out. The wood on the back is fairly nice looking. As usual, I've put shell or strap locks on there. And on this one, you may have been noticing a theme lately, and what happened is last year, to kind of try and jumpstart my interest, which had been waning, I started kind of modding some of my guitars. Now, this was the first guitar that I owned that I really modded, per se, by putting the pickups in it, but it's also one of the first ones that I got that I put a Bigsby vibrato system on. I wanted to try it out. And what I found was, on this guitar, where it's got a nice stable mounting to a flat top body, this is extremely stable. It doesn't dive bomb like a Floyd Rose does, but what it does do is it keeps its tuning and it returns to pitch very well, to the extent where if I down tune this to drop D tuning to do like some modern song, it doesn't push all the other strings out of tune like it would with a Floyd, which is very precisely balanced. This one relies on the pressure of the spring to return the bridge to pitch, and since the spring is so stiff, under normal conditions, the strings really aren't compressing it all that much, so that when you reduce tension by dropping down to D, there's not really very much of a change there, and it just kind of, it's happy sitting where it is, which is kind of a pretty awesome thing, actually. I don't do a lot of dive bombs. Yeah, once in a great while, I might miss that, but the trade-off that I get is something that I can rapidly switch tuning in without having to readjust and rebalance the tremolo, and that's a pretty nice thing to have. This video, I've already talked about the features of this type of a guitar, and if you want to hear more about that, then go ahead and go back to my original video on this type of guitar, and I'll talk a little bit about or rather more at length about the features and the construction of this guitar. Effectively, that's identical. I actually have 2 of the 400 that were produced. This one was purchased strictly to modify. And in addition to the pickups and the Bigsby bridge, the other thing I've done is I went to, and a lot of people hate these tuners, but I went to Tronical in Germany to their website and purchased these robot tuners. And basically, a lot of guitar players hate these for any number of reasons. I worked with them. I had a bit of a tuning stability issue, or I should say a tuning accuracy issue, and worked with their customer service department for a period of a couple of months to get that straightened out. And now, I've got updated software and all that stuff for this guitar. And basically, the tuning system is the same thing that you'll find on Gibson SGs and Les Pauls today. It may even be available on newer Explorers and Flying Vs. At the time, I had to go directly to Tronical. I couldn't get this through Gibson, so I had to import this and pay import duties and all that stuff, which was kind of a new experience for me to get this tuning unit. And we'll try and get it into focus here. But basically, you turn it on if you've never seen one, and then strum, and it's going to detect the pitch of the strings and operate these motorized tuners until it detects that everything's in pitch. It's kind of a neat thing. It's very convenient as far as showing up to a gig, rehearsal, audition, whatever, and being able to just pull your guitar out of the case, strum it a couple of times, you're ready to go. Also, when your band decides that they want to play a song that you want to change tuning for, you know, there are 3 banks of 6, so there's 18 different tunings I can have on here. With the updated software, it might actually be 6 banks of 6 that I can basically navigate to pretty quickly and then get the guitar tuned within about 5 or 10 seconds. That's a really powerful capability to have, although again, a lot of guitar players don't like this sort of a thing, and it hasn't always been perfectly executed. But the concept is a pretty interesting one, and you know, many people will say it's unnecessary. It is unnecessary, but do you really need to have more than one TV in your house? You know, we're at that point. So that's pretty much it on this guitar. If you've got any questions on this, feel free to leave a comment, or you know, even if you've got any suggestions or anything like that. Till next time.